revelation, the revelation
That's
that Bruce
amazing.
is indeed
Yeah,
Australian.
yeah,
Yes.
fabulous.
Hello, drone pilot Anthony Mac Vision. I can't reply to the comments because I am Cool Cat and Johnny. I am back on the phone. Of course I am, because who needs power anyway? Um, it's overrated, this modern electricity and stuff. It really is. And MTV1GO. Hello to you all. It's lovely having you along. I was wondering if Sean's going to join us. Bacon and cabbage. Bacon and cabbage. What sort of food stuff is that?
Bacon and
Anyway,
cabbage is lovely. It is gorgeous. My wife makes that with a kind of a white, has some kind of sauce with it. It's really, really nice.
oh, okay. Oh, it's a thing then. It's a thing. I didn't know. I'm vegetarian, so Anyway.
I'm a vegetarian. I just like processed vegetables. It's concentrated vegetable matter in the form of a chicken.
Oh, yes. You've a processed ones. Oh, that's
Yeah,
what it
and I
means.
have.
Then.
Every year I plant bacon seeds because I love bacon.
I can imagine. I was hoping that Sean would come on and talk about that dreadful thing that I can't.
Micro drone.
Yeah, I can't commit it to memory. I can't believe it's still a thing. I can't believe the guy's still trying. And hello, Dan. It just beggars belief, especially
Are we
as
there
the
yet?
specific.
Are we there yet? Can I drive? I'm hungry. It's that sort of thing, isn't it? It never ends.
Oh yeah, I suppose so. But but the specification is so far away from any of the newer modern stuff now that it's almost like the chap got hold of some developers when the patents ran out at a famous.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you been getting the energy ones? Don't buy solar. Just tap into the power beneath your feet.
Be beneath the ground. I'm doing a video on that now. Actually, it is such a huge scam. Have you seen the video where they show that machine in action?
No,
I've got that. I'm going to include that in my video. What a joke! It's the typical generator motor setup. A motor drives a generator, which drives a motor, and the excess power you then use to run your house. People, really seriously, YouTube won't let you say anything that might be remotely scammy in a video, but they'll take money to run ads like that.
It is extraordinary, isn't it? You can get your videos. Oh, in fact, it was Ian's fault last week. I got well, it doesn't really matter, demonetized, but for the music, I got a copyright claim on the music in that police video. It was rubbish as well. Hello there, Louis. How are you, mate? You all right? No, he's not. He's not talking.
No, it's good. It's a good day.
It's a good day. Hello there, Scott. Johnny again. Yeah, it is extraordinary, and extraordinary how they seem to be going after a lot of the people that are making air crash investigation videos as well now, and getting them out of the way. And oh my word, haven't we had a tremendous time for manned aviation in the last week in the US? I think 7 days, five fatal crashes, which is extraordinary. And did I don't know if you guys saw the banner towing one that happened.
Yeah, the Pawnee. It looked like a Pawnee or something, or air truck dropped a wing. Yeah,
dropped a wing, but he dropped the banner. So perhaps the subsequent reports will be he dropped the banner over a schoolyard to save the surrounding community. Or
it must have had engine trouble though, because it should have plenty of power to tow a banner like that. Someone will say, "Oh, it's because there was a strong headwind."
Yeah, exactly. I have seen that said already. That's right. Yes, it's a very good. It's power. It's the button that says power. Yeah, it is the button that says power. Yeah. So, yeah, manned aviation is not doing a good job this week of not keeping people alive or keeping people alive.
But to their credit,
I saw that. Yeah.
You see that the FAA are consulting on BVLOS drone flights. They want public submissions.
Absolutely. I wonder what on earth they're going to come up with. Now, is that it? Is that all the news? We've seen everything. That's it.
See you next week, Gary.
It kind of feels like that, though. The press releases have just disappeared. It's got very, 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 very quiet. Oh, did we have the M350? I think came out, didn't it, this week?
Oh, the DJI.
Louis is going to go, and here's one now.
Yes.
Did you see the Lilium plane debunked by that Asian gentleman? That video he put up, going through the science and the math and saying basically it's not going to work. But we knew that before anyway.
Well, yeah, and then some people got very angry because, gosh, is it Dan in America? I've forgotten the name of his channel, who flew the Dyson Hoover or whatever on top of a thing and showed how ineffective it was. I know it's a slightly different duct, but my word, people on LinkedIn got very angry with me for just suggesting that, hey, look, this is what Lilium's going to look like.
Well, they've raised $1 billion, almost $1 billion in funding for that thing. And it's like, my goodness, why am I sitting here doing honest day's work when I could be out there fundraising for some equally fictitious thing that relies on future battery technology that hasn't yet been invented to deliver the promises I'm making?
They released a sort of luxury fit version today, luxury cabin one. It's just rather cart before the horse, isn't it, really?
But I've analyzed these VC scams before, and what they do is they start up with all these promises, something they can sell to the public, big sizzle like the Martin Jetpack. Then they find that they can't actually do it, but they start switching focus. They come up with something else, something new, something, we're pivoting a little bit because this is better and so forth. And they bring on board figurehead people that have got names from the industry, usually retired from positions in other industries. And then they float it to the public, and all the VCs grab their money by selling their shares, run away with a huge profit, and the mum and dad investors end up carrying the loss. That's exactly what happened with the Martin Jetpack.
Yeah. ACSL, I'm not getting that abbreviation, Dan. Does anyone here get that abbreviation? I'm behind the drag curve here. ACSL, who knows what that is at all? No?
Did you see that Sky Sports have been appointed to the Freight Innovation Cluster Advisory Board in the UK?
Sky Sports?
Yes.
Freight Innovation Cluster?
Yeah, so they do like
it makes sense,
sports
doesn't it?
delivery service. So in their capacity as a drone operator, will represent the wider US community to identify the key opportunities and challenges to diversify in freight sector with drone operations. I can tell you right now what those problems are, what those niggles are. It's called the regulator. Until you solve that one, everything else is immaterial.
Definitely.
There's no other discussion to be had. It's the regulator that's holding everything back. So, that's the main challenge. Until that happens, until that's fixed, until our regulator catches up with technology and can actually work out a PDRA to use something like the Altitude Angel Superhighway, a basic PDRA, the drone deliveries in the primitive stages, you may as well not bother. In the UK,
it really does. Yeah, it really does depend where you are.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Long distance, I'm all for. Long distance stuff. I do believe there's good use cases, but if you can't fly across Morecambe Bay, right?
Yeah.
From one place to another to deliver to a hospital. If you cannot do that short run because the regulator has got its finger so middled up that it doesn't know what it's doing, then forget it. There's no point. Absolutely, in the UK, the regulator is the biggest holdup. It's them and the DFT. That's the problem. The only way to do it is to either replace the team doing it because they don't know enough or understand enough, or they've got to actually grab the bull by the horns and get it done. And they can't do it. I predict in another year, there still won't be any BV loss operations without temporary danger areas. And you'll still not be doing it right because we're just being held back. The technology's here now. We can do this. But no, regulator can't see that, can't understand it. And therefore, we're all screwed.
I think that, for all its gripes that people have, I think America benefits from in the FAA. It's one entity. I think part of the problem we have in the UK is because you've got CAA and DFT, you've got two entities, and they've both got to agree, and there's a hierarchy. And I think that just makes it messier. It'd almost be better if the DFT just said to the CAA, you deal with it entirely, we'll keep out of your way. And they get on with it and then just kind of report back to the DFT. I don't know. Maybe there's ins and outs of why that can't happen, but
politics.
While it is as it is, yeah, probably. While it is as it is, it feels that maybe that's the problem rather than anything else. I don't know, but it's just odd. The FAA.
You said the word Morecambe Bay, and that summoned Chris. You just summoned him with the word Morecambe Bay, and that's for anyone that's not in the UK. It is, as the name suggests, a bay. So these flights would have happened across water. So quite how that can upset too many NIMBYs and things and be so complicated, I really don't know. It strikes me as one of the most ideal test places, other than the fact that if it all goes wrong, it's all getting wet and you've got to. It's quite. I think you can walk. It's very dangerous, isn't it?
Won't someone think of the fishes?
Think of the fishes. Oh yeah, that's true.
Here's the thing: if a manned helicopter or plane or microlights allowed to fly over the sea, I don't see the environmental impact of a drone going in as being as bad as a plane or helicopter or a microlight. So to me, that's
I wasn't thinking of environmental impact. I was just thinking finding the parts afterwards would be a pain in the arse. That's what I was thinking.
Well, you're not going to get it back, are you? Let's face it. If it goes in Morecambe Bay, probably you'll never be seen again, so you wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, but there's not really the worrying about it. What you'd want is you want to grab it and you want to get the logs and you want to understand exactly why it went down.
See what happens.
And although you'll have remote telemetry back, I think as a principle, they really want you back. So I think if you were doing a test, if you did it over some dry land that again was remote, so you've got no risk, it's better because at least when it goes down, you just go up and pick it up. But either way, if you're talking about from a safety angle, both of them, if both of them sound to me safe. You get some moorland where people aren't crossing over it. It's cordoned off. You fly over it as a test site, and likewise, if you're over water, there's no actual damage. It's just the frustration there of trying to get the thing back. But I mean, you can make drones to the buoyant, so if they hit water, they'd still float. Yeah.
And they have those little things you can buy, which you put on them. And if you do get immersed in water, it dissolves a little membrane and a little balloon pops out. And it doesn't bring the drone up, but it gives you a buoy. You can then haul it up on the string. So, you can recover.
Here's the other thing. If you wanted to, crossing over Morecambe Bay with the drone as it flies, you won't even have to fly one at 400 feet. If they're worried about manned aviation, you can actually cruise across at 250 feet because
somebody quickly email Chris. No cockling in the bay no cockling on the bay for the next 2 years. That sounds like a radio play. No cockling on the bay. A series in 5 parts.
I don't know. It sounds like some fisherman's version of dogging, actually.
Starring Henry Winkler.
Henry Winkler.
What's crazy is to fly across, they're going to need a temporary danger area, which will take like 12 months to set up because of the way they do it at the CAA. It's just ridiculous. It takes so long to do anything. They've talked to all the stakeholders, and you just want to fly from A to B, and it's not that far across, is it? It's only, a mile or two? Is that?
I don't know. I can't get to my comments because I'm on the phone, or I can't invite Chris, but if you had time, if someone could get to and send him the link, one of you guys, that would be great. He's been a previous guest, so he must be in our if he's about, if he was plenty about, but he was able to join us. But yeah, it did seem to strike me as one of the more sensible UK trials that hopefully, and again, Chris can come in and tell us or answer in the comments, hopefully will still happen.
It's 7 miles across. It's 7 miles across. There you go. It's about 8 miles.
But it's a long way around to drive, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah.
This
is why it's a saving one. This is why it makes sense. Because if you needed to get something in an emergency across the bay to the other hospital, to drive around is going to take you an hour and a half, 2 hours, where 8 miles, cruising at 60 miles an hour is only 8 minutes. Literally.
Hovercraft. All you need is a hovercraft, mate.
Hovercraft, yeah. Be a shame to have to go to that, but then hovercraft's got. go up the high street and all that sort of thing to get to the hospital. That wouldn't be sick.
What about the trebuchet? Wouldn't the trebuchet
Trebuchet.
be enough?
Long range.
Absolutely,
one,
Louis.
7 miles. That's a long range one.
Yeah.
Just increase the arm of the trebuchet.
Bill wanted to cross the channel. I think there's a few people have flown across the channel FPV, Johnny.
There are also a few.
Let's not forget Maynard Hill. He flew from the US to Ireland, didn't he?
He did indeed. Maynard Hill way back in
And that
the
was a
day.
long time ago before regulations got in the way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I had APRS for their tracking, didn't he? And some hams listened to it. No, yeah, well, that was a heck of a good flight. Well, no, that was the 90s, wasn't it? It wasn't the 80s, or was it the 80s?
It must have been when GPS was around, so it must be after the 80s.
Yeah, I think it was the 90s you did that, I think. Spirit of Butt Farm or something like that, wasn't it? I think. Yeah, amazing flight. So anyway, what are the news we got? It really is dry on news.
Well, the industry is maturing. There is no news.
I wonder.
Same as yesterday.
Oh.
I wonder if actually at the moment, I don't know whether it's an economic slowdown or that, but there's a lot of operators. So I'm just wondering if it's generally going a wider across the industry. A lot are just saying there's a lot less work this year than there has been on previous years. In fact, Mark was in on this conversation where there just seems to be less money floating about at the moment in time. The businesses are just tightening the belt at the moment. So if we're in that kind of environment, it also makes investors more risk averse. So maybe things are just taking a little bit of a pause this year.
Is it also that you've got people buying Mini 3s and doing some of the stuff themselves instead of hiring someone to get some photo shots, you know?
Yeah,
I don't think that takes too much out of the market, really, because that's been there for a long time now. And with that comes the risk, because usually when people are wanting video stuff, they've got a specific idea of the shots they want and the quality they want. And although someone can fly the drone, they can't necessarily do all the rest of it, the editing and whatever, right? So that only has a limited amount of time. And again, we thought when those people are doing it so cheap to undercut the market, eventually even they get bored because they're like, oh no, I'm not getting up and doing all that for 50 quid anymore. You know, people eventually themselves think, sod this, it's just not worth it.
I think it's also interesting because there's a lot of places that still, there's quite a few that still go, oh, have you got your CA permission for commercial operation? While the industry has understood we don't need it anymore, we just need the right insurance. There's still places going, oh no, if you don't have a CAA authorization, we're not going to play ball with you. There's still a few of those about, interestingly. Not many, but there's still a few because they're stuck in the old mindset.
Most likely because their insurances require them to have it, and the insurances don't update that frequently, or they don't care, so they ask either way.
Yeah, you could well be right, Louis. I mean,
and who can keep up with the rule changes?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of places now where people will just buy a Mini 3 and just do the shots themselves, but they don't do the editing. It's like, you know, if I ever normally get sent out to grab video, I don't edit. I don't do any of the editing. It's down to other people to do it. All you do is fly the drone, if you like, and that's it. But yeah, it seems like on the commercial groups, a lot of people, the high-end kit seems to be getting jobs postponed or delayed or just completely canned. And there's a lot of people saying that, you know, small production companies now just getting a Mini 3 in, fly it themselves.
Have you tried that app that came from recommended by DJI that does the auto editing of the videos? Just run it through that and have them edit the videos by themselves. Done.
You'll never do an auto edit.
AI will do it.
Hey.
You won't even have to use a drone. That'll make up the footage.
It works great if you don't want to have any issues. You just put the drone video on it.
It works great to an extent. At the end of the day, if you're an editor, you'll know about framing, you'll know about the rule of thirds, you'll know about
Oh God!
you know about
Excellence is the enemy of good enough.
you'll know about
Hey,
the music, track selection. There's a whole myriad of stuff you do if you're doing an edit right.
hey! Don't make me open the Resolve 18. But yeah, the thing is, instead of providing raw footage, just provide auto-generated movie.
Yeah, a lot of clients that would still not work. You know, I've done edits for people, and
Have you tried?
Well, I know how to do an edit, and I know.
No, have you tried that auto editor from that DJI recommends?
No. The point is, though, an auto edit wouldn't do because I wouldn't.
No, the point is, have you tried?
If you're doing a good edit, you're not just cutting. You're using visual effects. You're putting call outs. You're doing a whole load of other stuff. So if you're giving someone just a chopped up piece of video, it's a chopped up piece of video. If you're giving someone a really slick video edit, it's going to have transitions in. It's going
You can't use 50 different transitions in a 60-second clip. There's something wrong with you.
It's going to have an animated logo at the end for your brand and stuff. So there is a difference in quality between here's something and here's something that's had the time invested in it.
That's really expensive, you mean?
It doesn't mean have to. No, it doesn't necessarily have to be really expensive either.
Ian, I even tell you the name of the app is Lightcut Video Editor. Cut less, create more. So what else do you want?
GoPro have done the same thing as well, and those that's been out a few years, and video editors here and they'll be here.
Ian, don't kill the bird if you haven't even tried it. Have fun with it.
Well, last week I couldn't even spell editor. Now I is one.
Yeah.
Yes, it's well, funny enough with the AI thing. There was a bit of a discussion at school today. We've had 2 discussions about AI at school. Everyone was terrified by it in January when ChatGPT came out. It was end of the world, end of the world, end of the world. It's report writing week this week. Everybody loves it all of a sudden. All of them. I was amazed. And they say it's okay because we've checked it with Grammarly. Oh, so you're getting an AI to check the AI then? Very good. That'll all be good. Oh, well. Yeah.
I have to say, ChatGPT is very good.
Oh
Yeah.
God, another
Surprise.
one, another one,
Isn't it?
I actually like it. If you ask it the right question, it's quite good. Although it's a shame that what it knows is only like based on 2 years, up to 2 years ago. So it has that knowledge gap.
It's
a lot more than I know.
Yeah. And if you want to know something, you ask it if the world is flat. Just ask ChatGPT if the world is flat. It's hilarious.
Well,
it's just funny.
Have you ever looked at a map?
You ask him that,
right here.
and then ask him to define what is a flat world. So you turn the question around, and then you have fun.
So many people, so much time to waste.
Absolutely. Good at what? Copying everything.
Come on, we get some time to waste thanks to automated video editors. So
anyway, talking about video editing, I'm going to take an issue with Andy Cortez in the comments. He's talking out of his bum because he's saying video transitions are so 2010s. Well, actually, bad video transitions have probably been around since the 1980s or before. But yeah, there's video transitions have to be used very selectively, but
there's only 3 transitions you should ever use: a cut, a fade, and a fade to and a cross dissolve.
I generally just use a cut anyway, and obviously you've got cross dissolve at times. But the point is, if you're on Instagram and you maybe even on TikTok, you've got to set audiences. They may expect a zoom transition or something else. So there's still markets where you would edit appropriately for that. But there's also as well with transitions, a bit of being the cool bit is you come up with transitions that no one's even invented yet. And I've looked at a bit of that for you, like using depth perception, using AI where it looks at the drone video, works out the distances for stuff, and then you can animate in. So you can actually do, for example, I think it's been used similarly in the film Inception, where you can actually render, say, for example, you're over a cityscape, you can bring the buildings in towards you. You can also do like a pen drawing animation, which is something I've done on edits, where you'll kind of draw the cities in. So it looks like handmade animation drawing a city, and then that reveals into a drone shot. So there's little, there's little clever things you can do. And again, you can utilize AI in doing those. So there's always a future in something else that will come along as this is the new cool effect. And then everyone will use it. Everyone will get really bored of it. And then another one will come along. But yeah, there's always markets, and that way you've got to edit to those. And music's key. You've got to pick the right music, and you've got to edit right to. You don't just do a cut of this shot, that shot, that shot. And you've also got to make sure that those shots that are there are interesting.
Yeah, and also don't forget you've got to use every font on your computer in the titles.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely the opposite of what you've got
Comic
to do.
Sans. Comic Sans for the win.
No. I just opened DaVinci Resolve, and out of the box, over around 50 different video transitions. So you can stack those. You cannot stack the 50 transitions in a 1 minute TikTok video.
Yeah, can.
Most of them most of them will need at least 2 seconds of.
Yeah, but you can overlap them.
Yeah.
Transition of a transition.
Yeah, we are definitely talking off topic here, aren't we?
No. It's all because Ian doesn't want to try the new.
It's TV day.
If you want to be woke, you've got to have lots of transitions. That's the new thing. You've got to be inclusive.
I don't really understand what woke means, but anyway, that's one of the many things.
It means you've got to have lots of transitions.
Oh, okay. Dolly Zoom using JAWS. Yes, I've seen that mentioned today, actually. Funny enough.
That's a brilliant, because that was created originally. What's the Alfred Hitchcock? He actually even created the setup for it. So it's where you zoom and move the dolly at the same time, so it looks like the background is coming forward. It's yeah, and that stayed in cinema as a cool effect to this day.
It's really easy to use in drone footage because you fly towards something, you use dynamic zoom to counter the movement, and the perspective all changes, the depth of field and everything. Looks really cool, but you can overuse it. I do.
Now try to do it manually. Try to do it manually without drone assistance. Come on, it's not so easy to do if you want to do it manually. Control the movement of the drone and the syncing of the zoom slider.
Yep. I do it with the zoom on my camcorder when I walk towards something and then zoom out as I go in. And once out of 10 times, it works really well.
Hey, come on, Bruce. You don't have a camcorder. You have a big thing that works as a camcorder.
No, it's a camcorder.
Actually, as a camcorder, yeah, because we've had debates about this. Because every time I mention a nice Lumix camera, Bruce has to jump in and mention that he's got a camcorder.
And a box of lenses and ND filters and goodness knows what else.
A DJI Trebuchet, that's an interesting, because they're not in the drone delivery market yet. So maybe...
I couldn't get mine to activate online.
Oh, what's that? Which one?
The DJI Trebuchet. And then I wanted to use it near an airport and it said no.
Oh, I see the this reminded me the Gatwick balloons have sort of been roundly said that they were Gatwick balloons, haven't they? I think everyone's
yeah, that was good. This is a little victory for the drone community this time, because although unsurprisingly the Sun and the Daily Mail immediately sold us all down the river and tried to pin it on the drone based off a Facebook post from an anonymous user that could have even been a prank. Other journalists had obviously looked at the noise we were making to say, hey, this is a balloon. And we had the Telegraph, and there was one local newspaper that did a very in-depth to explain actually it was likely balloons. Now, I reached out to a local witness. He's an old gentleman, retired, and he's got a radio scanner. So he was listening to the comms between the pilots and Gatwick ATC. And pilots did tell ATC when they went round a few times to check and said, no, it's balloons. And he said it was an EasyJet pilot was one of them. So the airport knew, it's known, and it was happy to just sit there and let this narrative that it was drones stay out there. So it was really good for the Telegraph and that to actually say, no, actually it was all like, and they even said there was someone that was close to the investigation that said that looked to be the case, which, it's nice to have someone that's inside that at least say something off the record.
I still would love to see any footage that the counter UAS system at Gatwick has, or they must have turned, once they realised what they're looking for, they must have turned the cameras to find the balloons downwind wherever they were, even the binoculars in the tower. And if they failed in all regards, then what was the point of that system?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to give the system the benefit now. I think it's a process issue. But yeah, I did make the point actually on this of journalists was getting involved in the chats, specific journalists that were involved mentioning Gatwick and even tagging all the key transport journalists they'll know for future, including likes of the BBC. In fact, I did the BBC even before they did their final story. So there's no excuse for them to have not brought in the balloons, but you can't. What can you do? But I specifically linked the ORDS documentation for the electro-optical head, explained how it worked, showed a link to Eddie Mitchell's photos of it, said there it is, it's there, it's a Gatwick, and I think they've got more than one, and explain what it actually does. So journalists now know, and I said, look, if there was a drone, they can definitely give you the video. And if they can't give you the video, there's questions to ask, questions to be answered.
Oh, it seems to have died down and gone away now, doesn't it? And that's that. So don't we have any opinions on the M350? Or did we talk about that last week and I've forgotten about it?
I can't say a lot about it because I don't particularly have interest in.
It's the one with the boobies.
Drones, but from listening to what other commercial you said, that I mean, they're pleased that it's unlike DJI, but this is what they should do. It's, for me, a good company when they do one product to the next product, where they care about the user base, they'll keep the batteries compatible. You see that with camera brands, those that kind of think, well, there's milk our customer base. Like, especially like GoPro really annoyed me of all the camera brands. Even stuff they could introduce in firmware, instead of doing a firmware update, they'll flock you a new camera. But then you'll get the other end, you've got your Panasonic. I mention them all the time because they've been brilliant over the years of keeping batteries compatible from one model to the next and adding features over the lifetime of a product for years through firmware. And so it's good this time that DJI had made the batteries compatible. Nice things they've learned. Yeah, Panasonic. A nice thing they've learned. It's just nice seeing, because this started with, especially in the Argipilot world, and it was done in the Solar, and the DJI brought it into their products, and they've kept on at it, which is thinking about the pre-arm check. If you speak to Philip Rouse, he's all day long, he'll say about just how important a pre-arm check is. That pilots will be there angry at the drone. Why are you not ready yet? Why are you not taking off? But that's the important. If your drone's being held on the ground, be thankful, because it's better to have your drone on the ground frustrating you than in the air malfunctioning and you having to panic about that. And what DJI have done with this matrice is if you haven't locked the arms in position correctly, it will warn you on the screen, so you can't take off without you knowing that you haven't actually secured the arm correctly, which is just one of those little nice touches where you suspect that one has come out of the sky for that on one of their logs, and they thought, let's make sure this doesn't happen in future, which is again why the drone industry, I think, is absolutely fantastic in this regard and doesn't get the credit it deserves, because when it sees a problem happen, it learns from it, reacts to it, it makes sure the next model resolves it. Or if it can do it in firmware, they'll do it in the firmware and all the existing models will benefit. It's really good in that way of iteratively learning what's gone
wrong. Like GoPro did with the Karma.
Just gonna say, I was gonna do. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair though, although we'll laugh about the Karma, they immediately took that very seriously. They grounded it. They got a world-renowned engineer.
I think it grounded itself quite regularly, didn't it?
NDAs, but lives not so far from Bruce. to even get involved and help try and figure out what was going on. So they really did care, really did want to get it right. So you can't, to be honest, you can't knock any company that immediately says we've got a problem, let's ground them and take them out of the sky. That's what you should be doing.
The good old Boeing attitude.
Opposite Boeing attitude.
I was being sarcastic.
Yes, I know. The trouble with you, Bruce, though, you've got to watch on Twitter. You always do a sarcastic response. And
Me
yes.
Sarcastic?
Yes, and then you don't even get the correct smileys right. So it really annoys me. But I'll let
You're complaining about me triggering Kevin.
Yeah. But I think with a lot of journalists, there'll be some of those that read those and think they will take that literally. They won't realise it's you having a joke.
That's why Twitter's crap. I don't like Twitter much. But hey, speaking of DJI and things,
can I just say? Sorry, can I just jump in just before that? What I've been trying to do, and we all need to do this and get more people involved, is get the drone community onto community notes on Twitter, so that if there's stuff like this gone on with Gatwick recently, we can immediately and actually add our own corrections onto that links and evidence, and it will soon stop journalists doing it. But that's reminding me, actually, Bruce, I can now community note when you do these posts and go, "He's joking."
Or am I? But speaking of DJI, this trade war is hotting up between the US and China. I see China is now refusing to allow the use of Micron chips made by Micron, because they believe they could have spyware in them. They're using the same tactic back in the USA. And we've got, like, that state in America is totally banned, or trying to totally ban, is it TikTok or something? I mean, TikTok, it's just a ridiculous trade war that's been setting up. I wonder where it's going to end, because it's not doing either country very much good.
Well, I think that's where that's exactly where it ends. Neither country winning. It'll turn to be slightly pointless. Very, very hard to de-Chinaize your nation.
Yeah, what's it going to mean to the industry? Most homegrown drones, like if you get someone bespoke builds or something like in the UK, a lot of those parts are going to come from China. There's no other really viable supplier.
I mean, it's a daft hypocrisy, because we've created that situation. Yes. We want the stuff built in China because they will build it cheaper than our labour forces here. So all we want to do is have China build stuff. We want to profit from that. But at the same time, politicians want to bash China just so they can look in a certain light of, it's making a bogeyman. Obviously back in time, America was always Russia, and now it's more that it's China. But it's a daft situation there, because they both depend on each other. China needs America's money and appreciates it, and America appreciates all the goods it gets back. They just both need to be
if you look at the balance of trade, I think you find China already has all of America's money.
Yes. And what's really interesting, though, is all the politicians are saying we've got to sort of decentralize from China, kind of got to spread, as if we're going to all of a sudden go to another country to get stuff made cheaper. China has a workforce like no other country. That's
now
cheap.
Well, it was cheap, but then people are moving to Indonesia and India as the next China, because they still have cheap labor forces. China's labor force is getting quite expensive.
Also. Vietnam also, quite a lot on Vietnam.
So it will. I mean, it will happen slowly, but it won't really impact China that much. I mean, American cars, the car manufacturers, they're going to have the biggest shock of their lives. They really don't understand what's going to happen with electric vehicles. They are going to have their trousers around their ankles, and China is just going to walk all over them. Really are. I mean, the only likes of Tesla stand a chance, and maybe Ford. The rest are all on borrowed time.
It's not entirely true, though, because the trouble with China a lot is it's not willing to invest the time in that in creating stuff. So it's all right with the hardware, but it's not good at the software. The reason we've got so many Chinese cheap drones is because they're stealing our Pilot and putting it on. And there isn't an open source. Obviously there's Rover, but that's not good enough for a car. So there isn't an open source automotive. I can't even say it now. I'm not even going to say it now. Be another word I'm after. But there isn't the automated drone car software that they can just rip off and stick on their vehicles, and not going to write it. So, although they've got some autonomous things going on there, I don't think they're all going to be that clever and usable worldwide. In fact, I think the whole thing with electrics, all a daft narrative anyway. So one just needs to make a plain, cheap electric car. There's a conventional replacement, and that will be the thing that sells.
They're coming.
And they do that.
Those
That's
are
what they
definitely
do.
coming.
Yeah,
But
if you look at the reviews, you'll see that China's doing a better job with its EV software than Toyota.
Yeah, they are. And if you look at Chinese cheap cars, take the MG. You look at the MG range now, the new MG5, that's a bonkers nice car, and that's an estate. You know, if you look at that versus the price of, say, a Corsa E, and you just go, why would you buy the Corsa when you just buy the Chinese? You know, their cars are good. And self-driving, let's face it, if we see a self-driving car in the next 5 years, I think we'll all be impressed. They did this.
It won't happen.
Exactly, right? It's like we've got the self-driving bus that's apparently now for a short stretch in Scotland. It has to be joke of the day. It should have been released on April the 1st because they go self-driving and it's got 2 members of staff on board. One sat behind the wheel, one to look after people behind them.
For
Why
those that live in UK, do you guys know the reason why the subway still has the conductor?
Not all the subway.
Because electricity needs a conductor.
There you go. Oh, very good.
No,
Yeah.
the thing is, autonomous cars are a perfectly viable solution.
Yeah.
From the moment you remove the humans from the roads.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because you can't predict what a human will do. And this is one of the problems we've got with technology. And this applies to drones, it applies to autonomous cars. They expect, the regulators expect safety to be 10 times or 100 times or just impossible to be that much better than a human. They expect a drone to never have a problem in the sky. But manned aviation can hit itself all day long and have problems, and yet that doesn't need any kind of electronic conspicucy. But drones, we will have it forced on us at some point because there's a perceived risk and we have to be more safer. So it's an actual joke in many ways. It's like cars driving down the road with humans. Now, humans are useless at driving. Let's be honest, we are crap. If you listen to
yourself. Speak for yourself. Come on, give me a break.
All humans are crap at driving. I don't care what anyone says. All you have to do is listen to the radio for car accidents going on every day and motorways blocked and this, that, and the other.
And then even your best driver, you'll see, you know,
everyone makes
drivers. They will answer the phone. They'll put the attention will go away to it, change a music selection or whatever. You're never 100% aware of what's going on around you.
But again, autonomous cars will be so much safer. But because there's this much of a
only like Louis says, they had everyone off the road. This idea of trying to do the AI stuff, it's going to push it down a long way because the trouble as well is different countries. You've got different issues and different obstacles you're dealing with.
You even have countries that drive on the wrong side of the roads.
Yeah, like everyone.
Most do. Most do.
Most do drive.
No. All those Brits and South Africans and Kiwis. Come on.
Indians.
Do you know, Louis, why we drive on the left? Do you know why?
Is there a preferred side? Why didn't someone tell me this?
Do you know why we drive on the left, Louis?
I know. I already heard several stories about that, but something about the hand that holds the whip, so you can defend yourself.
It's the hand that holds the sword, actually. So it's the hand that holds the sword. So in combat, you would always on the right because your sword is on the right. So you have to be on the left. They have to be on the left. Then you can go at each other. But it's all so it's all to do with the original way that you
went the wrong way.
It's better for road rage.
You'll never get him.
Yeah,
you'll never get him.
And that's why, because in we used to have Knights of Old and all that, where countries like America, the Wild West, they didn't have any of that because it just pull a gun out and shoot. Because America's not that old. America's
but you'd have to shoot across yourself if you're in left-hand drive.
So America wasn't that old. So being on the right made no difference to them, but being left, and of course, because the UK ended up having quite a bit of the thing as we do, our empire, what was in the UK followed, throughout the empire.
Yeah, I also heard the story about why train tracks are that wide.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, there were two.
It's because that's how wide the trains are, Louis.
So no, it depends. We used to have two different train track sizes, but one won in the end, and it was in the wrong one won. It's like VHS and Betamax. The wrong one won.
And Blu-ray and HD DVD. It's always the case.
but
Yeah,
regarding and coming back to the topic, what that was the M350.
Yeah, it took a while.
I mean,
I don't see a big difference between the 350 and the 300s. What they added to it was now it comes with the fancy remote that was introduced with the M30 drone. So they're trying to put everyone on the O3 Enterprise radio stack, which we are still waiting for Ian to do a tear up and see what's inside, if it's the same chipset or it's just software. So just to prove that the DJI is still mucking up with us with the artificial differences between their flights radio stacks. And I don't think there's much more of difference between the 300 and 350.
Yes, it's an incremental upgrade, really. It's a refinement, isn't it?
No, it has something that me and some of my mates, we start laughing because I believe DJI learned that one of the main problems of the M300's crashing, you're very far away from it, Ian. It's the alarm of the arms not locked. So you cannot imagine the number of drones that I've seen M300s crashing because the arms were not properly locked. And I think they putting an alarm and preventing the drone from takeoff if the arms are not properly locked is a response to that. And that's a very good feature, by the way.
It should be able to detect whether a policeman's flying it.
No.
And not let it take off.
In Canada.
You're muted, Mark.
In Canada.
Mark, you're muted.
Mark, you're muted, Mark. It's not a bad thing. We're just saying.
It's not a bad thing. You're right, Bruce. So just for everyone then, the M300's got the silly system where you unfold the arm and you get this ridiculous screw thing that you then screw in to the arm, and then it's meant to lock it in place. Now, DJI say don't over tighten it because then you damage it. And if you don't do it up tight enough, it comes undone. Spot the irony on such a bad system. It's absolutely shocking. I've flown the M300.
Come on, it's
they're
not
nice. They're quite nice.
We have lots of them, and yeah, you have to tighten it quite well.
Yeah. But DJI say don't over tighten it.
So that would scare you.
Hey, don't go and tighten it with a wrench. That's what they mean. Come on, you can tighten it by hand, and you feel the click when it's properly tightened.
Yeah. But I just don't think it's a good locking system as it is. I just don't think it's what I would call a good system. But it works, and obviously they found a niggle, and they've come up with the alarm system on the M350. Then this is the thing about not needing a regulator to look after about safety of drones to a degree, because the manufacturers see a problem, and like we've said, they fix it. It doesn't need a regulator. No one's gone at the CAA, oh, we better give a safety notice about this. You watch, you'll probably be one tomorrow now. But no one's gone.
Our CAA issued a safety notice about the battery issue.
They did for the M210, didn't they?
Yeah.
You remember? So the thing was, the manufacturers seen the problem, they fixed it. They've not needed a regulator to step up and say anything. They've just gone, we need to fix this.
Yeah, I don't think I have to say historically the drone industry hasn't had a perfect record because I mentioned obviously the DJI batteries there, but I do think as a whole, especially when you compare it to other industries, it is very good, and most of the time it can fix in software, so it's relatively trivial. So I would say it's still not. I still wouldn't trust the private sector ever to be entirely 100%. You still need a regulator there to be dot the I's and cross the T's, really, isn't it? And so that the manufacturers know if they ever wanted to cut corners, there would be a consequence. So you still need them there, but yeah, it's like they don't need to be. The industry doesn't need as much hand-holding as you might do with other industries. There's generally a feeling. I mean, they know it hits sales, so there is a motivation, I think, as well for manufacturers, and especially when you've got the DJI, you've got the warranty. They essentially a lot of people buy that, and it costs them. It hits them in the pocket if there's a crash. So there is actually the best motive for the manufacturers to fix is it doesn't come out of my pocket.
Look at ASUS recently. Look at how they've handled their problems. ASUS, that they've tried to sort of bury it more than actually address it. As to how different industries respond.
Is that? I don't know the full details of that. Is that a motherboard thing? Because I've seen
the motherboard thing where it was cooking the processors, and then they offered a beta BIOS update, and they said if you install this, it'll fix the problem but avoid your warranty.
But here's the thing, right? We're meant to be getting these standards for drones like the C1 rating and the C2, and then we're going to get the C4 and the C5 and the C10 and the C1000 crap. But it shows that actually you don't need industry standards because the manufacturers already solve most of the problem.
Come on,
I'm so sure on their own so sanguine about that.
I don't see the need for the C ratings.
No, I think that, for instance, this move from DJI is on their own interest, because if you crash a drone because one of the arms is not properly tightened, you can always say the drone crashed, and there is no easy way to determine that the drone crashed because of an arm. So it goes in on warranty, and they have to obey warranty and give you a new one or a refurbished one, and that has costs for them. As it has costs for them, they have to take measures to prevent that from happening, because they know it's the arm. They cannot prove it's not the arm, so they have to give you a new drone.
Self-regulation, and it is. It hits
it hits the pocket of.
It is worth adding, though, Louis, on this point, though, that DJI didn't used to be like that. They'd be tough luck. You've lost it. We're not doing that about it, and that only changed when 3DR came on the scene, did the flyaway warranty, and others have done it since. So there has been a move in the industry to do the customer service and the caring, and we will accept this under warranty. DJI didn't used to do that. They've realised to get the market and to keep customers, they have to do that. So there is a degree there of we care about the customer enough that we have to have these general principles. But you're correct. The reason it's been resolved is because it'll be costing them money as well. That's a key motivator for sure.
Yeah, we don't buy stuff that falls out of the sky. We won't buy drones that crash all the time. GoPro, Karma.
Well,
like I said, though, you should mention the Karma. It just isn't fair because they grounded it and
is a joke now. So it's no use killing the dead guy.
Well, it may be a joke, but I've just got to put in the fairness there, because there'll be engineers that have done that, and the care's been in there, and the concern, and those are people who've lost a job at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And now, what about the I don't know if and I put it in there for you, Bruce, to ask you now, and it wasn't a short either, by the way. Those catches. What do we think of catches on the side of things, and then with no dowels or anything to guide the rear fuselage, just two catches on. Seem very dodgy to me.
On what?
Oh, I did it. I see. Didn't watch anyway. There's
No.
a VTOL weekend. We
Oh.
tried to fly out the weekend, and there was a CAN bus issue, so we didn't fly it. But there's 2 latches, like suitcase latches or whatever, or hard case latches on the side, holding the tail on. And I thought, oh, I don't like the look of that at all.
I didn't see it. I was probably on TikTok
Yeah. Wow.
watching Ian's videos because he does a lot of stuff for TikTok. Apparently, you have to edit
So-
it different for TikTok.
Yeah.
Lots of
I
transitions.
don't do anything on TikTok. I couldn't care less about it, to be right honest. So as far as I'm concerned, video should be landscape, and anything that's portraits, it should be illegal.
It's just weird.
Well,
that,
just
isn't
turn
it?
your head, man. You're so old, like me.
No, look, we've definitely talked rubbish and nonsense because really nothing much has
You're
happened.
right from the get-go today.
Right from the get-go. Yeah, video was
There
too
there has
short,
been a
which
bit
is
of
bad.
something that's happened. I mean, I think it deserves a show in its own right at some point in the future where we can delve into it some more. But we've got, I'm going to call it the cancer, because that's what it feels like. The cancer of unnecessary airspace reduction in the UK from police forces. We've got this, I don't know if they call them a RAT, but it's RA brackets T, a restriction that is temporary in the airspace. And basically at the moment, if a celebrity wants to go outside and fart, we've got to seal off a mile of airspace in every direction around them. It's just getting, at first, it's all, I don't know, almost a novelty, and now it's getting tiresome.
Yeah, if it's someone from across this other side of the world, why do you have an airspace restriction? Because you've got the Eurovision Song Contest on. Well, it makes no sense to me that, like, places where you might actually want drones to get some footage, you can't fly here. This is crazy.
You wouldn't have got any footage because they were inside a building. So the restrictions.
Well, you're allowed to fly inside.
Our restrictions are stupid. It's like they go, oh, there's a race course on. We'll do a 5 nautical mile around the race course. Why is it 5 nautical miles? And it's going to get worse. We're going to get football grounds soon. And what they're going to be able to do, you wait for it. This is my bet. So what's going to happen is a football ground will get control of the area around their stadium. Now, on match days, and only on match days, they can go, no drone can fly. And it'll be something stupid because our CAA are over the top, and it'd be ridiculous. It'd be like a 2 kilometre or 3 kilometre radius around the stadium. No drone can fly because people, or should I say, I'm trying to be nice, but I just can't. I can't be bothered to be nice. So the regulators are stupid, or the police are stupid. Take your pick, don't care. Instead of going, oh, it should just be like 1 kilometre. It could be 1 kilometre around the stadium, which means if I've got a property roof inspection, it happens to be the best weather day, I want to go and do that property shoot or whatever, that stadium will be able to say no to me. However, why does it have to be so big? It only has to be 1 kilometre around the stadium. It doesn't have to be 3 kilometres or 5 kilometres. It only has to be a small radius around it, not a stupidly big one, which is what will happen. Watch.
You're wrong. You're wrong because if you look at it, DJI already launched a product that has effects on those area restrictions. They sell you a drone that has 160 times zoom, so you can be at 3 kilometers and still see the match.
They're missing the point. It's for doing the jobs where you've got to be closer. You might be doing a roof inspection. You can't be miles away using Zoom.
I know. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I appreciate you. Yeah. No, if you have been laughing, I'll get where you're coming from.
No.
But I don't see actually the likes of football grounds getting it. But we've got this. This scope creep that's come in because Brendan commented on this and he's banged on. In America, even like with Gatwick and the airports, you're closing down airspace. Somebody's authorizing that and taking responsibility for it. And here we've kind of put that out at local level. So you've got airports closing down. But you then got the police when they're giving the powers, and they're just closing down airspace willy-nilly. It's like because you've only got it happening in certain areas of the country, and it's become the part that if you're having a civic. So you've got something that's outside, it's in public realm. So it could be a concert, it could be something smaller. It's saying we cannot have anyone find airspace, and it's getting to the point where it's a real concern now, because it's not justified, and it's just showing utter contempt for the drone industry. Those people that need to make a living. You know, end of the day, someone can't do a job. That's money, and they can't put food on the table. And and I fear that it's part of this. It's almost just for show. It's like, I'm going to specific name because there's a Twitter thread on it. Read it on Twitter. But there's West Midlands Police that are becoming particular users of this method. Now, West Midlands Police, there's a limited company set up. It's registered, and it's the same address as the police. I think the chief inspector oversees it, and it sells now all the supplies to all the forces around the UK. This itself, it's all legit, and it's been set up specifically to see police can get the cost of equipment down. But as soon as this has happened, we've then got the situation where the airspace has become the police's personal toy to play with. So it's almost like, hey, let's close this. Look at us, aren't we being excellent? We've stopped all these terrorists that didn't exist in the first place from bombing all these locations they were never going to bomb in the first place. And so it's getting to the point where you're going, when somebody just going to say, whoa, hold on a minute, calm down, you've got this power, could you just use it responsibly to a degree that's necessary? It's like Mark was saying, you know, look at the actual diameter that you're putting down there. Are you just covering the stadium? Are you effectively closing down an entire city just for drones? You wouldn't do this to any other transport. It would, you know, if you tried that with cars, you'd have riots. And it's just that, because you're thinking it's a small industry. We can just absolutely trample over you for our own PR. And it's like, no, enough's enough. Someone needs to get a grip. Someone at the DFT and CAA need to get a grip on this. And in fact, the CAA should be given sole power on this, and responsibility and liability. Someone needs to answer legally if this gets out of hand, which it is getting out of hand. And so until it stops, it's just going to spread like a cancer across the UK, where it's, you know, because I mean, you know, West Yorkshire aren't doing this. But what they're not appreciating as well is the guy in the police drone team is saying, oh, but it's only these events. You can shift it to another day. Now, you can't say to someone, can you shift your wedding a few days forward? Because the police have said I can't fly and I can only fly that day. You don't appreciate these things are done months in advance. It's bad enough in the UK. We've got a thing called winter. We've got a thing called rain. A lot of the time, we're actually grounded. So the days that we do get to fly is in the summer. Now, happens because it's sunny and it's summer. That's when everyone does the bleeding events. So if you're saying, well, we're only going to be doing it for the events, you're saying we're going to take up a lot of the summertime, which is your key flying time. And it's like, no, you're not understanding what the impact you're having. And as this spreads out and it's copied, it's then going to become an issue. And so that's it. I'm going to have my rant. And I think we need to probably do an episode specifically focusing on this and highlighting it, because if we don't,
just release party balloons
unchanged.
Yeah, and hello there, Mitchell. I think that the thing is, it's the what bugs me the most about it is the attitude that says that so just drones, let's just stop them flying, just ground them.
And we're the biggest stakeholders. We are the biggest stakeholders.
Well, it's yeah, you know, on one hand, the government wants businesses making money with drones because that's good for the government because it looks good, and on the other hand, it as Ian said, it restricts large areas of city centres where on a nice day people could be earning money at a drop of a hat. And yeah, the police don't have the power to do that with light aircraft. That would have to go to the CAA. Would have to go to a no-town temporary danger area. They would have
drones are aircraft. We've been told.
Well, quite.
Where's when it suits them, we're flying aircraft. When it doesn't suit them, it's not an aircraft. You can't have all the restrictions, but none of the privileges.
Now, that's a very good point, because that's another thing that frustrates me with drones. It's like you're saying you're an aircraft, you're that. Someone then tries to shoot your drone down. It's, oh no, it's a toy now. It's not our problem. It's like, no, come on. You know, if you're going to define it this way, be consistent and be fair with it. Oh, I should add what had triggered me, especially with the recent restrictions, is the police, instead of saying we are doing this restriction, we're doing the restriction, we're doing it again and again and again and again, and it's us. What they do is, but the Secretary of State approved this, so they're trying to make it look like national government is coming along and saying, would you just restrict this or restrict this? No, they're not. What happens is they're doing the restrictions and they're getting a sign off. And I think actually Secretary of State doesn't even see these, and it's just a sign off. And I'm sure someone's done an FOI on this already, and I've seen it. And it said that we do nothing. We are just trusting the police, and it's done. But I can't find it, so I'll probably have to submit that myself, and I'll put it out there. But it's, yeah, if you're in the UK and you're a commercial operator, you know, you have fair reason around, and I absolutely pity anyone that's trying to run a business in the West Midlands at the minute.
Yes, they do seem to be the favourites for that, and that's also a bit weird in that, like Richard's, the drone highway is supposed to end up there, and there's all these initiatives, and the councils are getting involved and talking about how they're going to run things, and yet it doesn't seem that friendly to it all. You know, I wouldn't personally, I wouldn't go anywhere near them with any drone delivery trials or anything like that.
Well, the problem is with councils, they're going, oh, we can do this, that, and the other. The CAA just goes, no.
No, I think some of the narratives being driven by people that are driving councils as well, though, say, oh no, got to get everything out of the way because we're going to make X bazillion jillion pounds out of this. So we've got to move. I think people are moving the deck chairs around in the background. I really do. And
well, I've got a solution to flying stuff instead, so it's better on the ground.
Absolutely right. That was a great rant, and I'm freezing cold.
Are you going to have a swarm of those little trolleys that does patterns on the road?
Yeah, I mean but those things work all around the world, so why not? Right, guys. I think that was a great rant, and we will have to pick that up. I think it does more investigation. What it really needs is some sort of financial metric that you can say it's costing this much. By doing this is the economic impact.
Yeah, no, this is just before we finish. This is one of the points I raised. I said you've got to consider you're not just costing the pilots that are losing their job. There was, especially if it was a large event and they were capturing images of that. You've then taken those images away from being used by the city, so you're stopping the economic promotion of the city from using those images, and you're stopping historical capture as well. So you're stopping those being caught for the city to then use in 10 years, 20 years, and over again and say, look, we had this event in the past, and this is what it looked like from above from a drone. So all of that has a wider economic impact than just grounding the drones alone. So if you actually fully looked at it in detail and costed it up, you could probably come up in the end, especially if you said we will expand this around the UK. It'd be an incredibly scary figure at the end of the day.
I can see a few freedom of information requests going in to find out who gave the police the power and why is it being so overused.
Well, I think it'll just be there in legislation and that, but it does warrant understanding the DFT process, and if they are light touch, it's then maybe getting in touch with the DFT and maybe even some MPs and saying, look, we need to look at this, and there needs to be a proper process in place. Someone's down there actually in the comments. Tom's mentioned there should be a rant about flying in your private property as well. This is something that really, I think, with Bruce will know, but I think in New Zealand you've kind of sorted this out because you've got this shielded operation, i.e., you know, if you were flying there below your house, you're not going to be causing any problem because there's no way you're
I'm always out to cause problems.
Yeah. Well, a plane or a helicopter is going to have to be hitting your house before it's hitting your drone. And it does make me wonder why we don't, even if it's just a certain weight thing, can we have a bit more general common sense within within regulation. So
common sense is, hang on, where is it? Red card.
Yeah.
But the silly thing is that in New Zealand, I still can't fly my drone around my house because it involves BV lost flight. And therefore even though it's a little tiny drone, can't fly it behind the house. The regulations are just not fit for purpose in so many ways. The granularity is so coarse that they don't take into account. And because the people making them don't do what we're doing, they don't understand the details of the risk. The only people who are really capable of making decisions about risk are the people on the spot on the day who know what they're doing.
Well, there we go. And I think that is a perfect point to leave this one. So wherever you are in the world, dear viewer, look after yourselves, and we'll see you again 2100 GMT. And fingers crossed some news actually happens. Thanks very much for being with us. I really enjoy it. And I forgot what I was supposed to do for the podcast edition that goes out. I was supposed to introduce to everyone. The pictures and videos we've been showing this episode have been amazing. Sorry about that.
I was impressed too.
Oh, it was like a whole. It was a whole.
Look at this picture, Gary. What do you think of this one?
Amazing too. So look after yourselves. We'll see you again 2100 GMT next week. Bye bye for now. Cheers.